The Houston Texans' failures on offense in 2024 were never about just one thing. There were a multitude of things that were wrong with the offense in 2024 that led to the disappointing performance and ultimately the changes we've seen so far this offseason and the changes we expect for the rest of this offseason. But Matthew Berry from NBC Sports had a totally new reason, a totally new thing to blame for the Texans' issues in 2024. And it's pretty crazy, and we have to talk about it and see if it's a valid thing to blame for the 2024 shortcomings. So after the NFL Scouting Combine, which was last week, Matthew Berry always puts out a column with rumors that he's heard from the Combine. His biggest hit was he heard Tom Brady was going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day, and that's the biggest hit. He had a couple of notes in that column that were things that he let trickle out over the weekend, like Deebo Samuel's getting traded. That happened. And Matthew Stafford staying put. That happened. So I was wondering, hey, did the Texans make the column? 25 items. And sure enough, right there at 23, they did make the column. I asked a Houston source what happened to C.J. Stroud last year. Simple. The offensive line was bad, and then he got the yips. That's what Matthew Berry's Houston source said. Now, take that for what it's worth. It's Houston source. It could be a reporter who covers the team. It could be somebody in the organization. It could be somebody who works for the team. It could be Nick Caserio. It could be D'Amico Ryans. It could be me. It's not me, for the record. I don't know who the Houston source is, but the offensive line was bad. We all knew that. But C.J. Stroud got the yips. That's the first time I've heard it blamed on C.J. Stroud that way. Look, there are some things that you can point to that were not great from C.J. Stroud's 2024 season. His footwork got a little sloppy at times. He held on to the football a little bit too long, a few times leading to a sack or missing a read. His field vision wasn't as good as it was as a rookie. He was also dealing with a few more challenges than the rookie season, where he was excellent, had one of the best rookie seasons in recent memory. But to say C.J. Stroud had the yips, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying the yips as a reason this offense wasn't good. The yips, for those of you who don't know, is when somebody has an inexplicable mental block on something very simple that they do. Perhaps the most famous professional sports example is Chuck Knobloch when he played baseball, couldn't throw the ball from second base to first base. And the baseball movie, if you remember, Major League 2, Rube Baker, the catcher, couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher. He had the yips. And it's an inexplicable mental block that keeps you from doing something very, very simple. That's not what C.J. Stroud dealt with in 2024. He did not have the yips. He was not missing easy stuff. In fact, you saw in Kansas City in the regular season, when the blocking was there, C.J. Stroud was surgical on that one drive, probably one of the best drives of the entire season. When the offensive line held together, Stroud took care of his business. We saw it at the end of the year against Tennessee. We saw it in the playoff game. The Texans moved the football and could rely on C.J. Stroud when he wasn't running for his life. C.J. Stroud wasn't missing simple out routes. He wasn't dirting the ball on a comeback like he couldn't do it in 2024 after he did it in 2023. Now, did Stroud have some confidence issues throughout the 2024 season? Absolutely he did. Wouldn't you? If you suffered from post-traumatic sack disorder, you would have confidence issues too. And again, it's not so much the sacks. They were bad, not good in 2024. It was the constant pressure. C.J. Stroud had unblocked rushers. C.J. Stroud had pressure coming from multiple places. C.J. Stroud couldn't trust the five guys in front of him to block it up, and sometimes it led to him breaking pockets early, making quicker decisions than he wanted to. Sometimes the decisions that he made were ill-advised because he did extend the play too long and tried to make too much happen. He wasn't taking what was there. He mentioned it time and time again. He wants to take what's there over the course of the season. He wasn't doing that. In a large part, that was because he felt like he had to be Superman because of this offensive line's poor performance. The constant pressure led to Stroud's confidence being lowered. That's not the yips. That's just confidence in the five guys in front of you and confidence that just trusting the offense can get it done. Oh, by the way, What have the Texans blamed up to this point for the offseason, or in the offseason, for the failures on offense last year? They blame Bobby Slowick. CJ Stroud said it himself at the end of the year. Sometimes there weren't answers for what the defense was throwing at him. We know that this offense was unimaginative, uncreative, predictable, and Stroud had to deal with that. That's not Yips. That's Bad Bobby. And Bad Bobby has been booted, and good Nick Caley has been inserted in his place. And the Texans, at least the conversation that they've publicly had right now, believe that swapping out the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator is going to drastically improve this team in 2025. Do I totally buy that? No, because as Matthew Berry's conversation with his Houston source, which was not Cody Stoots, by the way, the offensive line was bad. Yeah, the 5 guys were bad. We just talked about it. The Texans have swapped out the offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach. They could do to swap out some of the faces on the offensive line as well and improve that situation. And at the very, very, very least, they've got to bring in competition for the offensive linemen that they keep around. Not Larry Tunsil. You know he's going to be over there at left tackle. But if Titus Howard's back on this team, he's got to get pushed, and he's got to earn that guard spot or that tackle spot if he's going to fight with Blake Fisher for the right tackle spot. Juice Scruggs and Jared Patterson, they got to have a knockdown, drag-out training camp brawl to see who's going to be the starting center for this team. If Shaq Mason's back, you better have a young guy there to push Shaq Mason and make it easy to move on from him in training camp if Mason doesn't hold off the young guy. There's lots of things that need to change throughout the course of this offensive line. They've taken care of the coach who coaches them and the offensive system that they ran. Now let's see if they can swap out some of the faces on the offensive line. And if that happens, maybe CJ Stroud's confidence goes back up. The offense goes to where we think it can go, and we can erase any sort of conversation about the yips. Yeah, the yips. I don't know if that's the right term to phrase what happened to CJ Stroud and the offense in 2024. That's just not the case. CJ Stroud didn't have the yips. CJ Stroud dealt with a situation that was far below easy to succeed in. It was very difficult to succeed in that situation, and it forced him to make some uncharacteristic plays at the quarterback position. The accuracy was down. Some of the decision-making was down. Okay, that was not all CJ Stroud's fault. That was a product of his environment around him, and the Texans are hopefully going to do a lot to improve that environment around him. They already have with the offensive line coach changeover and the offensive coordinator changeover as well. Hopefully some new O-linemen on the way. So you buying the CJ Stroud yips conversation? Let me know in the comment section down below on your way down there. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget SNL Texans, talking with myself and Landry Locker from the locker room. Houston football, where I do all my writing about the Houston Texans free agency. Just days away. Maybe one of those new faces on the offensive line will come from free agency. Got you covered here on YouTube when it comes to free agency as well. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you don't have the yips. And I can't wait until we talk Texans again soon.